Hey folks, in this video I wanted to talk about food and how you really need to take charge of your food and where your food comes from. Now I've talked about this before quite a bit, but in the past I've said that food was going to be used against you. That Americans were going to be pushed into eating food that, for lack of the better term, is not really a natural food source. Things like fake meats, lab-grown meats, insects, things like that. Now, I know there's cultures throughout history that have eaten insects. I mean, that's nothing new. But and eating plants, that's nothing new either. But what we're talking about is companies taking plants and processing them in extremely harsh, chemically heavy ways to make these plants look more like meat. But now they're going in a new direction. You know, not too long ago I read an article about how they were using, some people were experimenting with meat that supposedly tasted like human flesh in an attempt to entice people into trying it out, which is, needless to say, a very sick, disgusting thing to do. But anyway, there's an article that I wanted to let you guys know about. Basically, this comes from The Guardian, and it basically says the U.S. declares lab-grown meat safe to eat in groundbreaking move. The government's approval will open the market for a food praised for being more efficient and environmentally friendly. Now again, I've mentioned lab-grown meats. I've mentioned 3D printed meats, 3D printed steak and chicken, things like that. And they're going to continue this push. And again, the problem is we have, well, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to read some of this article to you. The U.S. government has cleared the way for Americans to be able to eat lab-grown meat after authorities deemed a meat product derived from animal cells to be safe for human consumption. The FDA will allow a California company called Upside Foods to take living cells from chickens and then grow them in a controlled laboratory environment to produce a meat product that doesn't involve the actual slaughter of any animals. So apparently they're talking about test tube meat. I'm losing some light here, so I'm going to try to hurry. The FDA said it was ready to approve the sale of other lab-grown meat, stating that it was engaged in discussions with multiple firms to do the same, including companies that want to grow seafood from the cells of marine life. The world is experiencing a food revolution, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is committed to supporting innovation in the food supply, said Robert Califf, the FDA commissioner. With Singapore currently the only country in which lab-grown meat products are legally sold to customers, the U.S. approval could open the floodgates to a new food market that backers say is more efficient and environmentally friendly than traditional livestock farming. We will see this as the day the food system really started changing. Costa Yanoulis, managing partner of Synthesis Capital, a food technology venture capital fund, told the Washington Post. The U.S. is the first meaningful market that has approved this. This is seismic and groundbreaking. Upside Foods, which was formerly known as Memphis Meats, harvests cells from these animal tissues, then grows edible flesh in bioreactors. The company said the flesh grown is identical to conventionally raised meat. It will take some months before lab-grown meat floods American supermarkets. Each product will have to be approved by regulators, and Upside Foods still has to get the acquiescence of the U.S. Department of Agriculture for its venture. It's also uncertain how consumers will respond to the prospect of meat from a lab. I can tell you how I'll react to it. I won't eat it. because I don't know what they did to it in that lab. The new generation of plant-based meat substitutes such as Impossible Burger have been lauded by many but did not revolutionize the sector. I would submit that the lack of support for a lot of those products is because most people don't want them. If people wanted them, they would be buying them. If they're not buying them, it's because they don't want them. So here you are trying to come up with fake meat in another way. Let's see. But the lab meat industry is keen to position itself as an environmentally friendly alternative in an age of growing concern over climate impact of meat production, as well as factory farming and animal welfare issues. There are more than 150 cultivated meat companies around the world, backed by several $1 billion of investments, according to the Good Food Institute. Making food more sustainable is a major focus of the COP27 climate talks shortly finishing in Egypt, I should say. The global production of food is responsible for 1/3 of all planet-heating gases emitted by human activity. What they won't tell you is that farming for soy, which is one of the base components of plant-based meats, is, all of that is farmed using petroleum, just like any other crop. Corn is done the same way. All these crops that they're using to make these fake meats, they're farmed in the exact same way that standard crops are. So you're not really changing anything there except for the end product. With raising, here I'm going to continue. The global production of food is responsible for 1/3 of all planet-heating gases emitted by human activity, with raising animals for meat responsible for the majority of this share. Pasture and cropland occupy around 50% of the planet's habitable land and use about 70% of freshwater supplies. That's a little disturbing that they put it like that. Crops in general require water, and rather than focus on how to use less water in farming through sustainable agriculture, regenerative agriculture, they're looking at changing what we eat. There can be no more hiding and no more denying. Global heating is supercharging extreme weather at an astonishing speed. Guardian analysis recently revealed how human-caused climate breakdown. Sorry, folks. Guardian analysis recently revealed how human-caused climate breakdown is accelerating the toll of extreme weather across the planet. People across the world are losing their lives and livelihoods due to more deadly and more frequent heat waves, floods, wildfires, droughts triggered by a climate crisis. At The Guardian, we will not stop giving this life-altering issue the urgency and attention it demands. We have a huge global team of climate writers around the world and have recently appointed an extreme weather correspondent. Then they go on to explain why they highlight climate policies, successes and failings, and they have no shareholders, no billionaire owner, just the determination and passion to deliver the reporting, and just self-grandizing a little bit. And then they start asking for funding, support, financial support. So I'm going to be honest here. There's a push to make people eat more plant-based meats. The problem is that plant-based meats are extremely highly processed. There's a lot of chemicals used in the processing of these meats, or meat-like products, I should say. And there's a lot of people that have concerns over that. Add to that the base products in most of these fake meat products or plant-based meat products is soy and corn and standard crops like that, which we already use. These crops are farmed in the traditional way with large equipment burning petroleum products. What we need to be moving from is this monocrop farming policy, where farms produce and grow one plant crops on hundreds of acres, because growing on one crop on like 100 to 200 or 300 acres, or however many acres is being used for one crop, you're creating a system that's vulnerable to disease. It aggravates food diversity. I'm trying to find the right words here. You know, we lack the food diversity our ancestors had. There used to be thousands of varieties of apples, but you go to the store now and you're lucky if you can find a dozen different varieties. There are people that are trying to save and recover these rare varieties. In fact, I recently read an article about a man who had, over his lifetime, had saved 120 different varieties of extremely rare heirloom apples. These are the things that we need to be doing. We need to be looking at changing from a monocrop system where one farmer grows nothing but corn, another farmer grows nothing but wheat, and etc., and start looking at ways of producing multiple crops on one farm. This has the benefit of increasing food diversity, food security, and a lot of the practices in that in regenerative agriculture can actually help heal the land. It enriches the soil. It reduces the need for watering. You get better quality food. It's less susceptible to insect predation and disease. And that regenerative agriculture does require inputs from animal products, animals. You graze, you have successive rotation of chickens, pigs, cattle, what have you. There's many different ways of setting this up. You call it regenerative agriculture or you call it permaculture, either one is the solution here, not lab-grown meats. But again, they mentioned that farming was taking up 50% of the habitable land in the country, and it's using up a large portion of the water supply. Well, they're looking at shortages coming, is what they're looking at right there. Continued growth of population and insufficient water supplies. And I tell you, the solution is not to reduce the amount of food options in the system. That's going the wrong way. In fact, I believe it's the Netherlands right now. There's another article, and I'll link to it along with this one. I just didn't print it out to read it, but the Netherlands is poised to forcefully close 3,000 farms in the next year. I believe it was. So we're looking at a food crisis here, where we're not going to have the food that we normally eat. We're going to have lab-grown, man-made, heavily processed, fake food. You know, there's already a lot of chatter among prepper groups about Soylent Green. And if anybody is familiar with a movie from, I believe it's from the 70s, you need to watch it. If you haven't watched it, you need to. It wouldn't surprise me if we're on the road to that. I mean, they're already using the book 1984 as a roadmap, so it seems, to how they want people to live. That's not a road I want to go down. I want to be in charge of my own food, be able to make my own decisions. And I know there's a lot of vegetarians out there, a lot of vegans that don't eat meat, and that's fine for you. There's a lot of people out there that do eat meat, and it can be debated whether eating meat is healthy for you or necessary. Some would tell you it is necessary for certain people. Some would tell you it's not necessary. There's a lot of debate there. That's not what I want to get into. What I want to get into, though, is that we should have the option. We should have the right to choose how we want to eat, what we want to eat, where we want our food to come from. And the only way we're going to be able to do that, the only way we're going to be able to have that right, is to produce our own food, or barter with people that do produce that food. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to come for that too. They're going to try to shut down backyard farms, backyard livestock, chickens and things like that. They're going to try to stop that at some point. A lot of places have already tried it. A lot of places have actually lifted restrictions on raising chickens in your backyard. But they're going to stop it, and it's not because of, they're going to say it's because of health concerns, disease issues, and things like that. Things like bird flu and what have you, unsanitary conditions. They're going to tell you that's why they're going to try to crack down on these backyard gardens and backyard farms. That's not the reason. The reason is, if they produce the meat, or if they produce the food, they control you. And we need to make sure that we maintain control of our own food supply. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about tonight. I just wanted to get a quick video out. We got some fog rolling in real late here. It's already getting thick around me, so I'm gonna shut this off. I got some other stuff I need to do real quick. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. I hope you found this useful. Yeah, take charge of your food, folks. If there's any way possible you can produce any of the foods you eat, do it. Build relationships with local people around you that produce food, and learn what they produce, learn what you can produce, and learn to barter for what each other has. Build skill sets, build a network. Food security is freedom. Without food security, without having the food that you need, you can be so easily controlled, and that's what they're going for. That's the end game. With that, that's all I've got, though, folks. Appreciate you watching. Again, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, folks, take care, keep prepping, stay safe, and I'll catch you later.